This morning, those $600 stimulus checks are finally on their way to Americans in need. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has effectively killed the chances of those checks increasing to $2,000. Joining us now, CNN chief business correspondent, CNN anchor of Early Start, Christine Romans, and former acting labor secretary under President Obama, Seth Harris. He's an advisor to the Biden campaign and transition team. Great to have both of you here to get your takes on this. So, Christine, it sure took a long time to get this added $600. Will this make a difference?
It's just maddening. It took too long. This money should have been already flowing for people. I mean, there's a lot of suffering out there. Will it make a difference? Yeah. Is it perfect? No. I mean, there are going to be people who are going to get $600 checks who are just going to save that money. We saw that in the first round of checks. Some people are going to spend that and it's going to be gone quickly because they're behind on their rent, they're behind on their bills. Others are just going to run out and buy stuff at Walmart or the big box stores, and that's going to help corporate profits, but maybe not their family's finances. I think the most important thing here is the extension of unemployment benefits, $300 a week in unemployment benefits. The president was slow to sign the bill, so there's going to be a hiccup here when people get that money, but it'll be 11 weeks of unemployment benefits. That, I think, is the most important part of the rescue for people who are really hurting right now.
And that's a good point, because it's not just the stimulus checks. It is the extension of those unemployment benefits. In effect, two injections of cash here. I wonder, Seth Harris, when we look back to earlier in the year, all this money spent in the first couple of rounds of stimulus, again on direct payments, extension of unemployment benefits, but also PPP, this Paycheck Protection Plan. Was there data that indicated it was really those direct payments that had the most significant economic effect, that was the most efficient way, not perfect, but most efficient way to get money not just into people's hands, but also to juice the economy a little bit?
Well, there's a lot of evidence that the CARES Act, which had all those programs that you just described, made a big difference in keeping the economy from bottoming out, really from collapsing. In a crisis, you worry a lot less about targeting the money perfectly and worry more about trying to get the money out as quickly as possible just to try to keep the economy moving forward in some meaningful way. The surest way to do that is to put the money in the hands of the people who are going to spend it right away. Unemployed families, families that are food insecure, low-income families who are the families that got hardest hit by the pandemic recession. So the CARES Act absolutely made a difference. It didn't save us from a big drop in economic growth, but it did help us to avoid the worst catastrophe that would make us look more like the Great Depression.
Christina, as far as what Seth was saying about you shouldn't worry about targeting the money, Republicans, at least Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, has seemed very concerned about untargeted money getting out into the economy. And I'm sorry, but we're all old enough to remember 6 months ago when Republicans had given up on being deficit hawks throughout the Trump presidency. Just to remind people with visuals, here's how the federal budget deficit has increased every year under President Trump. And now, at the end of his presidency, when Americans are so desperate, now they care about the deficit?
Yeah, finding religion now on deficits is just, oh my God, it's just stomach churning. And that chart that you just showed, that projection of $1 trillion, that's pre-pandemic. Now we have a budget, we have a deficit projected something like $3 trillion. And that's because of all the spending to get us out of a health crisis. Even before a health crisis, this was a GOP-led Senate and a president here, a GOP president, who were spending like crazy, even in a good economy, and driving up the deficit. You remember the president told the Washington Post that he could get rid of the national debt in 8 years. The exact opposite has happened, and that's even before the pandemic. For them to get religion now on deficit spending when we're trying to save an economy that has never seen something like this is pretty rich and will be pretty hypocritical. I'll be surprised if they can really sing that tune next spring.
Pretty hypocritical friendly, Christine Romans. Seth, what is the outlook for the economy going into 2021 at the start of the Biden administration? I mean, we should not, cast aside a still significant stimulus plan that did pass. $900 billion, is a lot of money. It's slow, but you do have a vaccine coming this year. Is the economic outlook positive in 2021?
Well, I agree with you that this new recovery package, I like to think of it as a recovery package rather than a stimulus package, is going to make a difference in helping people to avoid the real misery of this pandemic recession. It's going to help to save some businesses. It's going to absolutely help some families that are unable to find jobs right now. But we're still in a very, very deep hole. We have 10 million jobs fewer today than we did back in February. We still have 20 million beneficiaries on various forms of unemployment assistance right now. Hundreds of thousands of businesses, particularly in Black and brown communities, have just disappeared. They don't exist anymore. So we're in a very deep hole. My expectation is that 2021 is going to be a year of slow recovery, but that's going to depend almost entirely on public policy decision making in Washington, D.C. Are we going to make the very large investments in not just responding to the COVID crisis, but also in helping to build a fairer, more just, more equal economy that grows the middle class? Are we going to invest in infrastructure spending, manufacturing, in the caring economy, and education? That's what President-elect Biden laid out during the campaign in his Build Back Better program. My expectation is that if Congress will go along with him in making those investments and growing the economy, yes, we can recover. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very slow crawl back to normal, and we will have lost months and months and months of job recovery. That's really going to put us in a hole.
Another reason those runoff races matter.
Yeah. Seth Harris, Christine Romans, thank you very much for all of the analysis.